Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 822. I had the white pieces and started off with e4. My opponent played c5, going for the Sicilian, and we get a few normal moves. Let's see, knight f3, e6. It's like the third choice at this position after d6 and knight c6, but it's a very respectable alternative and can lead to a lot of different systems, including the Taimanov and the Kahn variations, as well as the Scheveningen like happens in this game. So I played d4, the normal move. He takes, I take, and then knight f6 is once again the third choice. The knight c6 move here would lead to the Taimanov, and a6 is the Kahn variation. So knight f6 is still not yet committing. There's still options here, but it's attacking the pawn, so I need to defend it. And then this is the kind of deciding point. So knight to c6 here would be a line in the Taimanov Sicilian, but d6 is the Scheveningen. It looks like a respectable way to get into the Scheveningen, and it looks like the main move here is the move I played, g4, the Keres attack. You can play more quietly with the usual kind of moves like bishop e2 and bishop e3. All reasonable ways to play. You can play aggressively with f4, but g4 is the most popular move here and has quite a good track record. So generally at the top levels they don't play the Scheveningen anymore just because of this move. And then the normal response. I just wanted to show some typical ideas of the Scheveningen for your benefit, but also for mine because I forget. But normally they'll play h6 here to slop down the pawns, to slow down the pawns. You can push on with h4, then just normal development like knight c6 or perhaps bishop e7, and then rook to g1. This is a move I often forget, but basically lining up the rook behind the g-pawn, preparing to push on with g5 and open up some lines over here right away. So it's a really quick attack on the king side, and lines will get opened. It's hard to avoid that, and black doesn't really have a secure place on the queen side either because of the c-pawn has been pushed forward. Shouldn't highlight the knight, but the c-pawn got pushed forward and traded off. So the black's king is not going to be particularly comfortable anywhere, whereas white can develop this bishop and get the queen out pretty quickly and castle queenside and have a safe king while enjoying a kingside attack over here. So h5. Let's follow this one or two moves more. That's kind of a funny move. You play h6 and then you play h5, but that is the main move here, and seems to be one of the better moves according to the chess engine as well. And then rather than pushing on at g5, because if you push on at g5 now, it just leaves the lines closed. You go ahead and take here to open up the g file, and after knight takes, you can develop the bishop to g5, and you know, the knight can come back to block, the bishop can block too, according to the chess engine. That's also a reasonable move, but knight f6 is the main move in the book. And then, in any case, queen d2 is playable, followed by eventual queenside castle, and it looks just like a fine attacking position for white. So definitely I don't really encourage you to play this as black, although, you know, if you want to, you can. Certainly it's still a playable position, but it looks like white's having most of the fun there. Anyway, he selected a very interesting line here with e5, and I suspect he was kind of improvising this over the board, but it looks like it gives black some chances here. So it's not totally one-sided, but I should have played the best move here is not knight f5 that I played, but to first throw in the bishop b5 check. So if I ever face this again, I'll remember this. You throw in bishop b5 check, he blocks, and then you can trade that off. Takes back with the queen to still keep pressure on this g-pawn. Now you can play knight f5. And I was kind of worried about what would happen after g6. But, well, you can throw in a tempo move here, bishop g5, hitting the loose knight. And the knight goes back, or the queen or bishop defends it. Either way, and then this knight can drop back to e3, defending the pawn. And this leaves white with an edge, so this is still good for white. There was also a tactical line here I wanted to point out. We're not in the opening book anymore, but the chess engine found a really interesting response at this point, which is knight to d5. And Oh, it's not. Is it not showing it here? Thought I had it. Anyway, let's see what the idea is here. If black takes the pawn, then the bishop comes here, and there's a quandary here. The bishop is hitting the rook, which can't escape. So it looks like you're going to win the exchange, or take the bishop. But if you take the bishop, the knight comes back and forks the king and the queen. So anyway, there's some interesting tactics going on here. But after e5, let's see, I just played knight f5, and he just developed with knight c6. He didn't try this g6 maneuver, but I think something similar could happen. Well, in any case, I always have knight back to e3 to defend the pawn if necessary. But he just developed with knight to c6. It seems like this h5 move was really the best way to play that. Let's see, I went bishop to g5 now, and he went bishop to e7. And after this, we're just out of the book, and he should probably play h6 to kick my bishop and try and gain a little space for himself over here on the king side. Bishop e7 is actually a blunder, and I could have actually gotten a really good position. I didn't play this. I mean, it's kind of obvious. I'm not sure why I didn't see this, but he left the g-pawn hanging. And so you can take that with check. And after, say, king here to harass the knight, you have bishop to h6, and black is in a world of hurt. So we have a pair of blunders here. He played bishop e7, and allowing this knight takes g7 here. And then I didn't take it. I just continued with kind of the normal way I play this type of position, which is to trade off the knight and to get a knight to d5. And that's a fine thing to play. It's just that there was a winning tactic there, and so you should always go for the win. But this is still a good position for white. And let's see, black's best choice here is to play h5, trying to undermine my plans over here on the weaken my structure over here on the king side and open up file for his rook. He's not going to be able to castle king side anyway, I don't think, with these advanced pawns. So so that's the best play here. After bishop takes f5, actually, it's a pretty strong advantage to white. So this is really the kind of the turning point of the game. After we exchanged a pair of blunders, I'm in pretty good shape after this. Let's see. So he went ahead and castled. Actually, he did manage to avoid any completely open files, but I have this half-open G file that I can operate on, and eventually I decided to put the queen there directly. So I think that's a good response. Goes G6 here to kind of shore up the G file a little bit and maybe try and weaken my my pawn center here and undermine my knight. But I don't have to worry about him taking because of the pin. So I just castle queenside, ready to bring my rook over if necessary. He drops his bishop back. I go rook g1, lining up on the G file, and he goes knight to e7. And knight e7, it looks like a blunder because of f6, but actually it was one of the top choices in the and that the chess engine gave. It was one of the top two moves, and it might even be the best move in this position. So it just means that black is in a lot of difficulty, and white's position is pretty overwhelming. But he could have played the next part better, so he had a way to escape the immediate damage from the fork. I do want to mention that f6 was only one of the top choices here. Also, f takes g6 was given pretty high ranks as well. Say, takes back with the h-pawn, just develop the bishop. It's just a tremendous attack, and it's going to be very difficult for black to defend this. So this was also given as winning for white. But I went with f6, and then the move he should have tried here to get out of trouble is this bishop h6 check. Always look for those checks or tempo moves when you're being forked like that. It would have given him some better chances. The line might go like this, say knight to e3 to block the check. Let's see, he needs to get his knight away from that pawn, so knight to c6. The problem is that he's still left in a difficult position here. So queen h4 hits the loose bishop. if it goes to, well, if it takes on e3, let's look at this line first. Maybe it's the most, logical kind of move. I take back and then say rook to c8, activate his rook, put it opposite my king, just bishop to c4. And the combination of the bishop here, the queen here, and the two rooks ready to jump in. The basic idea here is to bring this rook over to defend the pawn and bring the queen into h6 and then mate on g7. And it's just very difficult for black to meet this threat. And this bishop c4 move, that was to free up, among other things, it was to free up the f1 square for the rook to come over and defend that pawn. Although there may be ideas, if he manages to defend against that, of just pinning that f-pawn and bringing the h-pawn forward to soften up his king side some more, open up another line. But the most direct threat here is rook f1 and queen to h6. And that's pretty much enough to give white a winning advantage. Let's see, the other response after queen to h4 that the chess engine was giving is maybe a little better, is bishop to f4. Not taking, but holding on to the bishop. And then rook to g4 was the recommended move here. And there's now a similar kind of threat of just sacking the exchange here. Rook takes bishop, bringing the knight to the g4 square where it protects the pawn. And once again, the queen can come in and threaten mate. So in any case, this looks like a overwhelming position for white. But it was certainly black's best chance. When he plays knight takes d5, he just ends up a piece down. Maybe he thought in the complications here he might escape somehow, but when I take the bishop, I'm still attacking something. My pawn is attacking his rook, and this pawn is attacking his knight. So the material is even at this point, but he's got two pieces hanging, and he can't defend both of them. So he took the pawn, and I took the knight, and now I really am winning. I think I will just go through the rest of the game. I mean, he tried to put up a fight, but there was never any real chance that he had here, and I just kind of kept control of the position. So just looking at it with the chess engine, he tried to stir up some trouble, but there was never a time when he had a significant chance to even get to a equal position. And then at the very end, let's see, he blundered with queen d3 check. But just to show how it might have continued from here, he needs to play b6 because I have this threat of rook takes b6, and then I'm going to put my queen on b3 and coordinate with the rook on f7 there. So b6 to stop that, and then c4. And now queen c8. Queen goes back, and then I can just grab this pawn here, and it just looks like I'm breaking through, and plus I am a rook up, so it shouldn't be too hard to finish off that game, even with good play from black. But anyway, he blundered the queen here and resigned. So anyway, interesting game, and always like to have a chance to check out the Keres attack. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon.